Hello, guys, and welcome to Odds on Bundesliga Matchday 20 with Radek Vegas. As always, hello, Radek, how are you?
Hey, Eduardo, I'm fine. It's kind of a tricky part of the season. The restart was good, but then the teams made some faults or mistakes. And at the end, we see that across all over Europe that the favorites are struggling at the moment.
Indeed, so many surprises all over Europe, and the following week we also have European competitions with some German teams involved, of course. So let's analyze this new match day. Remember, guys, leave your comments, tell us your tips, and don't forget, as always, press the like and subscribe. And also, as always, on Friday we have a game in the Bundesliga. We have Schalke Wolfsburg, with Schalke getting better, as you've mentioned before. Radek, is dangerous going against Schalke lately, and you were very cautious. Actually, two consecutive goalless draw against Gladbach and Cologne. Now they face Wolfsburg. Unfortunately for Wolfsburg, they hosted Bayern Munich in the last game, and Bayern woke up and won 4-2. Do you expect Schalke also put in a battle, a fight against Wolfsburg on Friday evening?
Indeed, and that's because the Wolfsburg seems to be broken now, and I kind of expected this because I said that they will lose high against Bayern Munich at the end, 4 goals against them. I was expecting them to lose 4-0 or 4-1, so all right. And I think that Schalke at home is not that worse, and they have a lot of problems scoring goals. I think only 1 goal in the last 4 games around that, and that's a problem for Schalke. But betting on Wolfsburg is kind of dangerous. But at the end, the odds are too attractive to ignore. 2.0 around for a team like Wolfsburg playing against the last. And I'm not a huge fan of having fear of bad teams, and Schalke is a bad team at the moment. Anyway, Wolfsburg is not a team I want to bet on, but if you ask me for the best bet here, I would also say the odds on Wolfsburg with 2.0 are good, and they should win 50% of the games at Schalke at the moment, and so we have a good value. And at the end, we will see if the Bundesliga gets back to the normal situations when Wolfsburg wins, or we have a kind of surprise again. But you never know.
Okay, Wolfsburg, they are 5 points away from Europe, so they have to win this one. They lost the last 2 games in the Bundesliga, 3 if we count also the cup game against Union Berlin. And on Saturday, we have Bayern Munich Bochum, I guess with many rotations, of course, because we have Bayern PSG. Everyone is looking forward to that game the following week. And Bayern Munich, as you mentioned, they reacted with 2 victories away in the cup against Mainz, scoring 4 against Wolfsburg, scoring also 4. And now they welcome Bochum out of the relegation spots after beating Hoffenheim 5-2. Bochum, they are really in form. I guess not for getting points in Munich, but for victories in the last 6 games.
Yes, and most of them for sure at home, and they got to be very strong on their home pitch like last season with their new coach now, 𝐬𝐻𝐸𝐻. Does a good job, at least at home. So the problem is Bochum is still the worst away team. That is not helpful if you play in Munich, and only 3 points out of 10 games is not really great, and conceding 29 goals on away pitches and only scoring 7. So it's highly unrealistic that Bochum is able to make anything in Munich. But on the other hand, odds on Bayern are really, really bad. And the only thing I am looking if the odds on the 3-way bet are really bad for the favorites, you can watch on first half bet, but still bad odds with 1.4. And the other thing is betting on both teams to score. If we have a team like Bayern who is not really interested in defending, they have the best strikers in Germany, maybe even in Europe and the world, and they can handle every opponent if they are like at Wolfsburg when they scored 3 goals within the first 20 minutes. 𝐿𝐭𝐚𝐲 is back with 2 goals, and so they have a lot of options to score, and they also are not really focused on defending because it's not their key competence. And I think both teams to score is always an option in a Bayern Munich game as well, if we have odds around 2.0, like it's the case now, because to be honest, 7 goals in 10 games is not very likely that Bochum is scoring. But anyway, the best bet I can find, maybe you find better one, post it in the comments.
Well, remember, of course, perhaps Bayern, they are a bit relaxed, thinking in the Champions League. And next game, let's see if we find better odds. We have Freiburg, Stuttgart. Freiburg, they are very strong at home, 6 victories and 2 draws in the last 8 games. The odds for Freiburg to win is 1.9, but they are coming, of course, after a defeat in Dortmund, getting 5. But Radek, they were playing the whole game with 10 players. Let's see if they bounce back against Stuttgart.
Yes, and it seems like Freiburg players don't like to travel, as they also lost with 6 goals at Wolfsburg. But their 2 home games were not bad after the last defeat. They had a 1-1 against Frankfurt at home, and they were able to beat Augsburg at home. Not the hugest opponent, but Stuttgart is also not. That's why we see odds of 1.8, 1.9 on Freiburg, which are fair. I would even consider it as a kind of a bit value, because, Freiburg is very home strong. They don't concede a lot of goals at home, and Stuttgart is so terrible that I always hoped that they show that they are better, but I gave up my hope after the last game when they lost their home game against Werder Bremen. That's really bad. So I expected them to win this game because they had some good results against Hoffenheim, a draw, Mainz, a draw, and they had a close loss against Leipzig at Leipzig. So not bad results for a team like Stuttgart. And then they lost against Bremen with 0 goals and 0 chance. And that's why I think the odds on Freiburg are good enough. 1.8, 1.9, we can go for that. The other option I prefer, often in situations when a team is favorite under odds of 2.0, which I don't consider as a huge favorite. I like best bet on draw, because you get more money if the draw is right, and the chances for a Freiburg win is equal like a draw in this game in my eyes. And so you can decide, do you think it's more realistic to bet on Freiburg or to bet on a draw? And I think because we get more money at the end, a draw is statistically the right thing. But to be honest, I don't trust Stuttgart anymore. And difficult to say.
Difficult. Similar is the next game. We have Hoffenheim, Leverkusen. We have one team that is very poor, like Hoffenheim, is still falling in the table, getting 5 against Bochum, 3 points away only from the relegation spots, only 2 points in the last 9 games, so everything is very negative. And then we have Leverkusen, Radek, a team that is very difficult to trust in the middle of the table, and to win, Leverkusen to win is 2.3.
Yes, and if there haven't been the recent 2 games of Leverkusen losing against Augsburg without a goal and losing against Dortmund without a goal, okay, I was not judging them after the Dortmund game, and I thought they will strike back at Augsburg. Was one of my favorite bets that Leverkusen is winning this game. But again, Leverkusen was a big disappointment, as we often had this situation in Leverkusen games. And so even if Hoffenheim is worse than Leverkusen and they are also impossible to bet on, I won't trust Leverkusen again. So for me, everything leads to a draw where both teams are very, very happy with a point because they are afraid to lose again after so many bad games. And the best thing we can do here is just betting on that there is no winner. I'm sorry.
All right. A draw in the Hoffenheim. Leverkusen, another one tough to call, in my opinion, is Mainz, Augsburg. These teams are very difficult to predict. We have Mainz losing in Berlin against Union Berlin, but they won the last home game against Bochum. Their numbers are bad. Recently, only one victory in the last 8 games. And then, Radek, we have Augsburg, that is impossible to predict. They are coming from big victories at home against Leverkusen or Gladbach, but away they are very poor. Only one draw in the last 5 away games.
Yes, but before they had a good time. That's why if you have a look at the away standings, it is kind of surprising that Augsburg is number 10 and they had 3 wins. But the last games were not good, as you said, and that leads maybe to a bit advantage of Mainz. And on the other hand, Mainz, it's also not very convincing that we should bet on them. And at the end, the same thing here. The odds on Mainz are too bad for a team like Mainz. And Augsburg can always surprise, but not really on away pitches. And a draw is a good risk-reward ratio of almost 4.0. And that's better than betting on a small odds of a favorite. And I know that a lot of players or people in the audience would say I'm always betting on draws, but if I say there's a draw, that means that I personally won't bet on it, or maybe I'm undecided. I'm not really sure about it, and if I'm not sure about it, I don't risk money because I'm really a good bettor, but I don't know every game, and I only bet on good odds, and that's why you have to choose the games where you shoot your money at.
Well, let's see if we find better odds, because also betting on Mainz with odds 1.9, of course, is very risky, very low. We have similar odds, but for a big team, in this case, Borussia Dortmund going to Bremen. We had Borussia Dortmund winning away and at home against Freiburg. They are in great form, 4 consecutive victories, only 3 points away from Bayern Munich, so not sure. I guess now we are more able to bet on this Dortmund, on backing them, because they are quite reliable since the break, after the break of the Bundesliga, Radek.
Yes, and every time we think that Dortmund is losing or drawing. And remember the game in the first leg of the season against Werder Bremen? Dortmund was leading 2-0 till minute 90, and then Bremen turned the game around and was winning 3-2 at Dortmund, one of the most ridiculous games ever. And I think this can be a point that Dortmund knows to take this game very, very serious and take revenge on Bremen. The other thing, they have a cup game on Wednesday against Bochum, at Bochum, and maybe this can be a tough game as well. I expect after the Dortmund run that they should continue this run, because winning 5-1 against Freiburg is a really motivation and a good thing. They should keep their trend, and we have no reason to bet against Dortmund because, yeah, Bremen had also bad games, but seems to be better in the last 2 games. Okay. Anyway, the odds on Dortmund are still attractive. We get 1.8. And if we get odds on Dortmund of 1.8, we have to go for it. And I would even risk more because I found out in my betting stats that it pays out more at the end if I go more risk and higher odds. And in this game, Asian handicap -1 on Dortmund pays 2.4. And if Dortmund wins, they should win with at least 2 goals in advantage. And Bremen, if they get 1 goal, I think they get more goals. And at the end, Dortmund is the better team for sure, but they have to show it again.
Indeed, they are in form, and the other 2 teams that we are going to analyze now, they are also really informed. We have a very interesting RB Leipzig Union Berlin, the second against the 4th in the Bundesliga, both showing great numbers. Leipzig, they drew against Cologne in the last game, but they are the best Bundesliga team when they are playing at home. And Union Berlin, they've won everything after the break. 4 games, 4 victories. They are playing Europa League, by the way, the following week. Interesting game against Ajax.
Yeah, for sure. One of the biggest game in their whole history. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing is that in the head-to-head between Leipzig and Union Berlin won the last 2 games in the last season. And now in this season, the first game at home 2-1, and last game also 2-1 at Leipzig in April last year. And if you have a look at the head-to-head, it was always a very close game. The last 2 for 6 games, only with 1 goal in advantage on one or the other side. And that means it's always a kind of rivalry and tradition versus modern team, like so-called modern, because they are just in the Bundesliga because of money, not because of tradition. But anyway, hard to beat at home, Leipzig, and everything can happen here, to be honest. Union Berlin deserves to be at the top, and Leipzig also is in great form. So I don't think Leipzig is the favorite here, as the bookies say. So we have odds of 3.7 for a draw, or even 5.0 for Union Berlin win. And I have 2 things. One thing, just listen if you are really a gambler. As we know that Union Berlin won the last 2 games and is able to beat Leipzig in a good situation, they are also able to beat Leipzig with 1 goal in advantage. And if you think that your 5.0 odds are not good enough, you even can make it more special and go for Asian handicap -1 on Union Berlin. You don't get these odds on some bookmakers because it's kind of unrealistic, but I don't think so. Maybe you get odds of 7 or 8 for that, and just a small amount of money to bet on Union Berlin. So you can, kind of profit if Union Berlin continues to be a hard opponent for Leipzig. But in a normal situation, the best thing here, and I really bet on that as well, is a draw. We get odds of 3.75, just because Leipzig is not way better than Union Berlin, and they should give them a hard fight and make it at least very close.
Okay, we stay with the draw. By the way, these 2 clubs, they had a little fight in social media recently after the winter transfer window, because Leipzig was mocking at Union Berlin, saying �𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐿, questioning about the Spanish player who finally didn't join Union Berlin, and Union Berlin replied to Leipzig, tradition, just on the way that you said. that Union Berlin is a traditional team in the capital, whereas Leipzig is just about money. Interesting game to close the Sunday games in the Bundesliga. And we have an extra on Sunday, as always, 2 games, Hertha Gladbach, with Hertha really in trouble and not improving, penultimate in the standings, 4 consecutive defeats. The last one against Frankfurt, and we have Gladbach, always full of quality. Radek, always hard to predict. The last game was a goalless draw against Schalke. Again, a bit disappointing.
Yeah, totally, because you expect them to win at home against Schalke and win high against Schalke. So this was bad. I don't know if Schalke is really going better to defend after 2 goals in a row without getting a goal. The good thing is that Gladbach is not really does not really have to fear Hertha, as Hertha didn't score a single goal in the last 3 games and only 1 goal in the last 4 games. Lost every 4 games in 2023. So Gladbach is the way better team. And just because of the bad run of Hertha and the high potential of Gladbach, which they don't show often, but they have, it's good to see odds of 2.4 or 2.5 on Gladbach. And I don't have to bet on this. And as we all know that there can be draws in the Bundesliga, Asian handicap 0 on Gladbach 1.75 should be a really good bet, as we can all say that it's highly unlikely that Hertha is winning this game. And if they win, then they prove that in the Bundesliga it's the hardest way to predict games. And yeah, so do you expect Hertha to win this game? Then put it in the comments before the game. After the game, everyone can say, yeah, I thought so. But anyway, Asian handicap 0 on Hertha, on Gladbach 1.75.
All right, we had some draws in the previous weekend. And the last game is Cologne and Frankfurt. For instance, Cologne is one of the kings of the draws, 3 draws in the last 3 games. The last one against Leipzig, and Frankfurt, they need to win this one to challenge and to get into the Champions League spots. Still in form, beating Hertha with 𝐿𝐴, a player that we saw in the World Cup. For instance, he was important player in the World Cup final, scoring a brace. How do you see this last game in the Bundesliga, Radek? Cologne, Frankfurt.
Yeah, just have a look at the odds, and you can say that the bookies don't know who's better. And I think both are great at the moment, and both can live with a point. So to make it short, this is a clear draw. But if you are into Asian handicap bets, like I said before, Asian handicap 0 could be an option. And I prefer Frankfurt in this situation, as Cologne, I don't know how they do it, because they have a really limited quality, and Frankfurt has the way better players. And if this pays out one day, then Asian handicap 0 on Frankfurt is, in my opinion, the better bet with 1.8, and I like this.
Okay, be careful with the draw in this game, but we go for Frankfurt Asian handicap 0. Radek, tell me your safe bet for this match day.
Yeah, totally safe. It's the bet that Mönchengladbach is not losing at Hertha Berlin. And I say this ironically because, you know, Bundesliga sometimes or even often does things you don't expect. And if you think, even like Dortmund at Bremen, this should be a clear thing, they can also screw it up. And at the end, Asian handicap 0 on Gladbach at Hertha has odds of 1.75, and this is super.
Okay, well, yeah, as we always say, there is no safe bet because we don't have the crystal ball, but something that we think is going to happen almost for sure. And your ACCA?
Yes, and like the last times I did, and I also won one of these crazy, stupid ACCAs. I go a large again with 3 Asian handicap -1 bets. And as you might know now, that I prefer one with the Gladbach. Going higher risk with odds of 3.6 if they win with 1 goal in advantage or more. And the other one is Dortmund at Werder Bremen -1. The odds are 2.4. And the third one, of course, we should hope that Wolfsburg is able to go back into the winning streak and win at Schalke, which is highly likely against a team like Schalke. The odds are 2.7 for Asian handicap -1. And at the end, if all 3 win with 2 goals in advantage, we get odds of 23. And so let's hope the best. Cross your thumbs and fingers and all you have, and then go for it, but always in your budget.
Exactly. Radek, thank you as always for analyzing 1 week more the Bundesliga with us. Thank you, guys. Remember, just press the like, thumbs up, and subscribe to our channel. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye, thanks.